Hello, it's Michelle Morand here. And today we're going to talk about how to figure out what you really need. And the exciting thing about that is that where in the past the thought of figuring out what it is that you need might have felt overwhelming or nebulous somehow, something you couldn't quite put your finger on, or just couldn't have confidence in that you would identify it right, or that your need was valid or okay. Now, after each step that you've taken with me, you have a perfect recipe book for figuring out what it is that you need in a way that nobody can challenge. You know what you need now. And let me tell you how you know. First of all, when you're going through your day and you're stopping and you're asking yourself, are you peaceful or not? When you're feeling peaceful, your needs are met. When you're not feeling peaceful, you have a need. It's that simple. Now, how to figure out what that need is. We start with our reality check. And that's the exercise where you say, what was I just thinking or what just happened? And what am I telling myself that means or what's going to happen next? And what does that mean? That exercise there helps you very rapidly separate out the stuff that your drill sergeant is popping in there, that instinctive brain kind of assumptions and kind of quick thinking, but usually quite off base part of our brain from the actual facts of the situation. And there's almost always some variance between the two. They might be completely different or they might just be slightly off. But the faster that you wrap your head around the reality that the first thought that you have is usually not right 100%, the faster things are going to go well for you. Because that's really one of the most critical things a human being can come to understand is that the instinctive thought that they have, the first thought they have about what's causing them to feel the way they are, or what's going on, or what the other person is saying or doing, or what is happening in the situation, is usually skewed towards our old themes and the kind of instinctive reactions that we have. It's only a few seconds later that we have a chance to actually stop and get our prefrontal cortex engaged and start to assess what is really happening. So that's something really important for you to just remember and live by. The first thought you have is almost always wrong in some way. And the more you practice this, the closer to the bullseye you get with this instinctive brain because you've trained your brain to see things in a more realistic perspective, or rather to be just more open to what's actually happening around you, rather than automatically assuming that whatever you're experiencing means the same thing it did from past experiences. Okay, so let me recap. You know how to tell how you feel. You've got your reality check to help you to figure out what's bothering you. You can use your drill sergeant dialogue exercise to help you to separate out the stuff that's worry and old baggage from the present day reality. Okay. And once you've done that, now you essentially have a sense of what it is you need, what's bothering you. If you find that a little bit challenging, it's even easier now that you've done this work with me this last week. Because really, what your needs come down to almost always is your values and principles, the key relationships or responsibilities, roles that you have in your life, and the goals that you have within them. Okay. There's also stuff like I'm tired, I'm thirsty, um, pardon me, I'm not feeling very well, things like that. The kind of natural physiological needs that we'll have too. Um, but really, aside from your values and principles, those key responsibilities or relationships in your life and the goals that you have within those two pockets, those are your needs. So when you're asking yourself, what's up? What's bugging me right now? Why am I feeling so niggly? If nothing immediately comes to mind, or because of what I just said about not trusting that instinctive brain, you want to just make sure you want to feel that nice sense of confidence and clarity about what you're looking at and what needs a tweak for you in order for you to feel more peaceful. You can simply ask yourself, okay, based on my values and principles, what's happening in my life that might not be feeling good? What might I be doing, or what might somebody be threatening to do or be doing around me? And in the key relationships in my life, and what I want for myself to be doing in those relationships or experiencing in those relationships versus what's actually happening. What's the disparity and what might be niggling at me from there? I guarantee you, you're going to find the answer. It'll just take a few seconds, literally, to have a look at your values and principles and your roles and goals and to actually be able to identify, yeah, that's bugging me. Now, what's really cool about this is because you know that your values and principles are sound, you got them off a list on the internet, they have to be real, right? But really, there's so many lists, and those words were on all of them. They're not new words to you, they're concepts. Nobody can really argue that trustworthiness or responsibility or integrity or caring, whatever's on your list, nobody can really argue that those are legitimate needs or that those are appropriate things to hold yourself and others accountable to. Um, and your responsibilities, when you're nice and clear, I have an obligation to do this week, or I need to tackle this particular thing. Nobody can really argue with you that you don't need to do that when you know that that's a fact for you. Or I should say, they can argue, but they're not going to sway you. You're not in doubt about what is right for you to be focusing on. That right there is the antidote to codependent training. It is the solution to you feeling self doubt and insecurity. And you've got that now. Okay. So let's go through that again. In order to figure out what your needs are, you simply need to be asking yourself as you go through the day how you're feeling. If you're not feeling peaceful, then you have a need that isn't being met. Now, as we've just discussed, it might not be entirely 100% accurate what you think is going on that is triggering that need. In other words, that sensation of discomfort or disease might be coming from a fear, a thought, something like that from old times, or worries about the future, not so much based in this present moment. Sometimes, however, worries about the future do require us to meet certain needs for ourselves. And almost always, those needs that we have when we're thinking about something coming down the pipe are reassurance and information. Almost always. So, in other words, if you find yourself feeling unsettled about something that's coming down the road, it could be an hour from now, it could be months down the road, you will almost certainly feel more peaceful, more at ease, and more prepared for what's to come if you focus on meeting those needs for reassurance and information. Usually, the first place to go for reassurance is yourself. How can you reassure yourself that you're going to not do anything that compromises your values and principles? You're going to remain in that nice place of balance that you've created with those key roles and responsibilities that you have. Secondly, you'll go for reassurance to whoever else is appropriate. If you're having a surgery, you'd go to your doctor or reputable sources that could provide you with that information. But here we go. We're slipping into information. They're very similar, these two, the needs for reassurance and information. And it's important that we stop and we ask ourselves if those needs are up, if we're thinking about future stuff, because again, that's usually what we're needing. And usually it's very easy to at least begin to meet that need and start to feel, that cortisol lower, that dopamine and oxytocin raise. Every time you take the time to just listen to yourself rather than shut yourself down and go eat, you raise your dopamine and oxytocin naturally. And the more consistently you do that, the easier it is for you to figure out what you're feeling and what you need, and the more dopamine and oxytocin you get naturally. So, if what we're ultimately trying to accomplish here is a life that has as less cortisol as possible, stress is a part of life, absolutely, but we don't need to be stressing unnecessarily. And a lot of the time, the reason why we get into these patterns of addiction is because, yes, there were stressful times in our past, but we're carrying them with us still. We're feeling unnecessary stress in the present. This protocol that I've taught you will help you to sidestep that altogether and simply be feeling the feelings that are appropriate for this moment and for what's really happening. And that's about 80% less stress and worry than your average day. Okay, so that's pretty exciting stuff. So let's go over this again. To figure out what it is that you need, you stop, you ask yourself, am I feeling peaceful or not? You say, what's up? What was I just thinking, or what's just happening? And again, if you want an anchor for that, you say instead, which of my values or principles am I thinking about compromising or is being compromised right now? Which key roles in my life am I not feeling like I'm showing up as well as I'd like for? There's your answer to what it is that you need. Additionally, you might want to check with, am I feeling tired? Am I feeling thirsty? Am I hungry? Those basic physiological needs. But that's it. Now I know. Okay. So yes, so and so is asking me to do this thing for them, which totally compromise my values. Okay. So if I think about that value, maybe it's trustworthiness. That's the need that I have, is to show up as a trustworthy person. And if I keep taking this action, that need won't be met. So now it's so much easier for me to just say to myself and to whomever is asking me to compromise that, sorry, that goes against my values. Or trustworthiness is important to me, and that doesn't feel like it's really ticking that box for me. You will feel that confidence. You won't be so concerned about whether they agree and whether they're upset. These things that maybe used to plague you or keep you stuck in doing things that you knew weren't quite right for you, which of course raises cortisol, lowers dopamine and oxytocin, and makes you eat when you're not hungry, and makes your life harder. And it sets up that relationship for that person to continue to expect that they're going to be able to get you to do what they want to do. So it's a lot we've covered. And tomorrow we're going to talk about communication and relationship. That's its own 3-volume book in and of itself. But I'm going to give you the key points so you can begin to experiment with that. Because now that you know what you're feeling and you know what you need, and you can feel more confident in the rightness of that and the accuracy of that and the okayness and validation of what it is that you need, it's important to be able to communicate that in ways that you know are reasonable and respectful. Because sometimes people don't respond well to the communication of needs. Other times they really don't understand what we're saying, actually. There's so much misunderstanding that happens. In fact, 80% of communication is misunderstanding the first time around, which is why I want you to remember that 3 to 5 rule. Oftentimes we need to communicate things to people if they're important 3 to 5 times before they really understand what we're asking. But we're going to talk about that more tomorrow. Today, I just really want you to be thinking about one thing. Your needs just are. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not right, they're not wrong. Once you've identified through your values and principles and those relationships and the goals you have for yourself, what it is that's not feeling right, what it is that you need in order to feel peaceful, that's just a fact. Okay? That's just a fact. You may have been judged for asking for things in the past. People may have not had patience or may have put you down or may have just been selfish and not wanted to have to think about you as well as themselves. That is not at all the same thing as your needs are too much or you're needy or they're bad in any way. So I want you to remember your needs just are. We need to step away from the judging of good, bad, right, wrong, all, nothing, and just observe without judgment. What is it that I need? And what would have to happen in order for me to feel peaceful? And that's the action that you need to take in order to meet your need. So we're going to go over this lots more down the road. But for today, I just want you to think about this simple recipe. How am I feeling right now? What's up? Let me check those boxes of values and principles, roles, goals, and the basic physiological pieces. That's going to tell me what it is that I need. Asking myself that question of what do I need in order to feel peaceful? It's really going to help you just to have extra confidence that you've identified that accurately. And it's going to help you to know what action you need to take. And you might not be ready to take that action. Don't worry about it. You're going to feel so much better just knowing what's going on and knowing what you need. And that's what's really exciting for you to get to see as well. The problem doesn't have to be solved right now in order for you to feel some relief and to start to feel more peace and less stress. And that makes it even easier for you to actually take the action you need to take when you're ready. So tomorrow we'll talk about taking that action, which is how we communicate our needs to other people and how we hear what they need and don't compromise ourselves in meeting it. For today, I just want you to be thinking about, how am I feeling? What's going on? What is it that I would need in order to feel peaceful? I know you're going to be so amazed when you use this strategy of checking in with your values and principles and those roles and goals about how easy it is to figure out what's really bugging you. and to feel so confident in how you figured it out. And that's going to really change the balance of those hormones and make it so much easier for you to make the choices you wanted to make in life. So have fun with that. Have a great day, and I'll see you later.